I'm Joe at Sierra Specialty Auto. Welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to continue with the Dumore Toolpost grinder. We're going to start making a wheel guard from a piece of round stock. Before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to Dean at the Air Cave Shop. He's doing some interesting videos. If you haven't seen him or subscribed to his channel, go check him out. I'll put a link in the description below. Thanks for your sticker, Dean. I appreciate it. Now let's head on over to the lathe, and I've got a piece of stock set up in the chuck. Let's start making a wheel guard. I am set up here to dress off the outside diameter. I'm going to use since I have the jaw set backwards, I'm going to use the boring bar to get in here, run in reverse, just to get this faced off. Then we'll be running in forward out here to drill and bore the ID all the way through to about 1 490. I'm going to use a series of 3 core drills, 4 flute core drills like this to get out to 1 7/16. Need a little bit less speed for this. Alright, that should put us at around 1 probably 440. That's probably a tiny bit oversize of 7/16. I'll set the boring bar up and get a bit closer. There's some heat in here, so I'll get close and then I'll let it cool off. These core drills are really good at turning stock into chips in a big hurry. And that should be pretty close. This is the only vaguely critical dimension on here, and it's just a clearance dimension. 491.5. I'm going to settle for that. Now I want to set for a depth of cut of 1/16, or excuse me, 1 1/16. So I'm going to come up tight there, zero my Z, and go to 1. Let's call it 1 600. And set a carrot stop. Like that. And we'll come out here to, what did I figure? I want to come out to about 4 1/16. That'll be clearance for a 4-inch wheel. Alright, let's take a 10,000ths finish cut. I'm going to slow the feed rate down because we're pretty close. We're about 10,000ths off. One final check before we clean up the inside face here. I am feeling a lot of heat. I'm 2,000ths under. I'd like to hit that fairly close. Well, that's just clearance for the stone. Let's just take about 3 more and do 1 more finish pass. This is not that critical. Even if it does shrink a little bit, no big deal. Let's put some chamfers on here. Maybe dress up that outside face. Can I get there with this? No, I can't. Let's try this tool. That might reach in there for the one in the back. Now we can do this one. All right, time to turn the work around and start playing with the other side. I have set up to turn the hub of the wheel guard. I'm going to go 3/4 of an inch deep from the outside. I'm going to go from about 4 3/4, I'm going to go down to about 3 1/4 on the OD of the hub, and then I'm going to go to the rotary table on the milling machine to do this profile and leave this lug sticking up. That lug is going to get split like so, and then the perimeter of this ring will also get split partway around to provide a locking arrangement to secure the wheel guard to the arbor on the grinder. I'm going to start with about 100,000 depth of cut. See how that goes. If it feels good, I'll increase the depth of cut. That would be 50 thousandths off the diameter, actually. Excuse me, 100 off the diameter and 50 actual depth of cut. We'll see what happens there. First 2 cuts were at 50 thousandths depth, 100 off the diameter. Then I went to 100 thousandths depth, 200 off the diameter per cut. And we are at 3 and 400. Roughly, and we're looking at for 3 and 250. So I'm going to take I'm going to take 140 this time. How hot is this? Now, we're not terribly concerned. This is a very non-critical diameter. I'm looking for a nominal 3 1/4. So I'm going to take another 10 off, and we'll call her quits there. I have two operations to perform here. The first, I think I can get this in the picture. First operation is to relieve where this clamp arrangement is going to be. I'm leaving about an inch at this point where the bolt will hold the clamp together, and taking it down and leaving about 3/8 of an inch on the part of the band that will flex. So I'm going to come in here. I'm offset by half of the width of the bolt clamping area, which is 1/2 inch, and half the diameter of the cutter, which is 3/8. So I've moved over 7/8 of an inch. That's what I'm supposed to have, but I don't see that on the DRO. Let's make that 7/8 of an inch. Whoops. There is 0.875, and then I'll run in without bothering to do a bunch of math. I'm going to run in 5/8 of an inch on each side of center on that feature. A little bit of a bozo moment. I failed to lock down the rotary table, so I've shifted about 4 degrees and I can see it. Let's wind this over. I can see it in my cut here. There's a step between the beginning of the first cut and the beginning of the second cut. So let's wind this back to 0 degrees, and I'll get a screwdriver and lock the table. I believe one lock will be enough. There's another one on the back that I can't get to, but one should be sufficient. All right, so let's return to 7/8. I may need to make an adjustment on the other side of that feature because it may have moved also. In fact, I'm sure it did. First, let's recover our position here, and then see if we need to alter both sides. That did move. We're way off there. I'm down to 7/8 of an inch, which is not a major issue. I'm just going to run with it. These dimensions were arbitrary in the first place, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm going to lower back down half of my depth here, which is about 3/8 of an inch. Now I need to loosen the rotary table. I'm over here on the right side to make a conventional milling cut. I don't want to do climb cutting on the rotary table because it's too hard to control. The cutter will try to take the work away from me. So I have well, first I have to come back to center, don't I? Because I want to rotate around this axis. So let's back off a bit, return to center. Joe Piezinski did some videos on rotary tables, and he said you just have to really pay attention to what you're doing because sometimes you're working from an off-center mark, sometimes from an on-center mark. You go back and forth during the process of the work. You've really got to be careful to keep track of what you're doing. And I don't remember whether Joe had to lock his table in any place in his process, but let's remember you got to lock your table. So let me rotate the table around, bring this cutter in, and I'm just going to look by eye for this mark I need. I need a little more rotation, and I'll have to make a note of where I come to. Right now I'm sitting on 30 degrees. I think that's going to be pretty close. Let's see what happens. Keep your fingers crossed. That's not bad for a start. I'm at 1 4/90 from center, so let's go out. Keep going around to, it was a little over 30, and come back to about 1.49. All right, let's see if we can do this again. Back around until I have met the original cut in conventional milling. Now I'm going to dial in another 5/1000ths of an inch, or maybe 3/1000ths of an inch on the Z, a little in depth of cut, and I'm going to come back in the other direction and do a climb mill cut for finish. Well, I'm fairly happy with that. I got just a little bit off kilter right here because of the table being loose, but for what we're doing, I don't think anybody is even going to be able to tell. It's not the least bit significant. We just did this feature for the clamp, and now we have to do this feature, which allows access to allows the wheel to access the work. I have decided to make at least the first couple of passes with this same setup where I've got a really good bite on the major diameter. When I grab it up here, it's going to turn into a much flimsier setup. For this feature, I don't need two parallel surfaces like I did for the clamp. I can just go straight in on center, work around, and not have to shift back and forth. So let's see how this is going to work. There's contact. Let's come up 1/4 of an inch. 1, 2, and 50. And we'll see what happens there. Now I'm going to start this cut with the lock set on the table so that it doesn't pull in like it did on the first cut. So let's see what happens here. This seems like a good place to take a break, keep this video down to a reasonable length. I hope you'll come back for part 3. Thanks for watching.